The steady tick of Marcus Thornton's watch cut through the silence of the empty boardroom. He stared at the graph on his tablet, the upward trajectory of Heartland Foods stock, contrasting with the emptiness he felt. Success at 42 looked different than he'd imagined, colder, hollower. Outside Boston's skyline twinkled with Christmas lights, a reminder of the holiday he'd been dreading. His phone vibrated. The nanny's text, running late, traffic from school concert. He checked the time, 6:47 p.m. on Christmas Eve. He'd promised Emma they'd bake cookies tonight, another promise he might break. Marcus gathered his papers and headed to the school auditorium, slipping in just as Emma's class began their performance. On stage, his 7-year-old daughter stood with a little star pinned to her sweater, her voice rising above the others during her solo line. When she spotted him, her entire face transformed. The weight in his chest lightened briefly. She still looked at him like he hung the moon, despite his failings. After the show, Emma crashed into his legs report card and Christmas crafts clutched in her small hands. No hug from his daughter was ever tentative. She committed her whole self to the embrace. "Daddy, I did it. I remembered all the words." "Did you hear me?" Marcus lifted her, inhaling the scent of school glue and sugar cookies. For a moment, Christmas didn't feel quite so wrong. You were perfect, Starlight, the best star in the galaxy. The Range Rover cut through Boston's snowy streets, Christmas lights reflecting off the fresh powder. Emma pressed her mittened hands against the window, her breath fogging the glass as she counted wreaths and waved at inflatable snowmen. "Daddy, do angels get cold in the snow?" The question caught him off guard. Emma had been asking more about her mother lately, trying to place Claire somewhere in her understanding of the world. Angels are made of light and love, not flesh and bone. They don't feel cold like we do. I think they do feel things, though. Mom would want a scarf. She always said her neck got cold first. Marcus swallowed hard. Emma's memories of Claire were fragmenting with time being replaced by stories and photographs. Soon she would have more years without her mother than with her. As they passed through the upscale shopping district, Emma's attention shifted. "Daddy, I'm hungry. You promised cookies tonight." Marcus checked the dashboard clock, 7:15 p.m. Most places would be closing. "I know, Starlight. Let's stop and get something." He pulled the SUV to the curb near a small bakery called Holiday Hearth, but the closed sign hung in the window. As he reached for his coat, Emma's voice stopped him. "Daddy, who's that lady?" Beyond the bakery's side alley near the dumpsters stood a young woman in a thin coat. She was hunched over, carefully retrieving something from beneath discarded boxes. Her blonde hair was matted under a knit cap, her gloveless hands trembling in the cold. "Daddy is she looking for food? I'm not sure, Starlight. Stay in the car where it's warm. I'll check." The wind hit Marcus as he stepped out. He approached slowly, business instincts automatically assessing young woman 20s, perhaps clothes worn, but not filthy posture suggesting exhaustion rather than intoxication. "Excuse me, are you all right?" The woman startled, clutching something to her chest. She was younger than he'd thought, maybe late 20s, with sharp features softened by expressive eyes. Despite her circumstances, she carried herself with dignity. "I'm not stealing." Her voice was steady, clear-educated. "I'm not looking for trouble." Only then did Marcus notice what she held, not food or valuables, but a battered notebook with dog-eared corners and a nearly split spine. A car door slammed. Emma ran toward them, her boots leaving small imprints in the fresh snow. "Daddy, it's freezing. Did they have any cookies left?" Marcus moved to place himself between Emma the Miriam and the stranger, but his daughter ducked around him, staring up at the woman with open curiosity. "Are you cold? Your hands are all red." The woman looked down at Emma, something softening in her expression. "I'm all right. Thank you for asking, though. That's very kind." Emma tilted her head, studying the stranger. "Are you hungry?" "We were going to get cookies, but the bakery's closed. I'm fine, really. You should get home where it's warm. It's Christmas Eve. Family time." The snowfall intensified. The woman took a step back, preparing to leave, but Emma wasn't finished. "You could have dinner with us. We have lots of food. Daddy always orders too much because he can't cook very good." Marcus winced at his daughter's brutal honesty. Cooking had been Claire's domain. After her death, he'd transitioned them to meal delivery services and restaurant takeout. "That's very sweet, but I couldn't impose." Emma turned to Marcus, her expression a perfect mirror of Claire's when she'd set her mind on something. "Please, Daddy, it's Christmas. Mom always said Christmas is when we make room at the table. The reference to Claire sent a pang through his chest. It was true Claire had invited strays and orphans to their holiday celebrations. She'd believed no one should be alone on Christmas. The snow was falling faster now. Weather warnings scrolled across his phone. The woman shifted from one foot to another, her thin sneakers already soaked through. Marcus made a decision that would change everything. We have plenty of food at home. You're welcome to join us. I'm Marcus Thornton. This is my daughter, Emma. The woman hesitated, then extended her hand. Olivia, Olivia Winters. Her grip was surprisingly firm, her hand ice-cold but steady. Up close, Marcus noticed the sharpness of her cheekbones, suggesting recent weight loss, but her eyes were clear and alert. In the car, Emma scooted to the middle seat, patting the space beside her. Olivia sat carefully, tucking the notebook inside her coat. The luxury of the vehicle seemed to make her uncomfortable, her posture rigid, hands folded tightly in her lap. Emma chattered about school and Christmas wishes, filling the awkward silence with childhood enthusiasm. Olivia answered politely, but her attention caught on a photo clipped to the visor, Claire smiling on a beach hair blowing in the wind. Something flashed across her face, recognition. Surprise, it disappeared too quickly for Marcus to interpret. As they approached his property, the gates swung open to reveal the Georgian colonial mansion. Holiday lights traced the roofline and wrapped the bare trees. Olivia's breath caught audibly. The mansion, through a stranger's eyes, looked like what it was, a monument to wealth and privilege. Emma bounced in her seat. We're home now, we can make hot chocolate and cookies. Maria already put up all the decorations. There's a tree in every room. Inside the house was warm, smelling of pine and cinnamon. A massive Christmas tree dominated the entryway, decorated in gold and white. Olivia stood motionless, her worn shoes leaving small puddles on the polished stone. She looked like a wild creature that had accidentally wandered into civilization, alert, wary, ready to flee. Emma shed her coat and boots in a trail leading toward the kitchen, calling over her shoulder. Come on, I'll show you where everything is. Maria always leaves food in the fridge. You can leave your coat here. Marcus gestured to the closet. There are guest slippers if your shoes are wet. Olivia nodded, slowly unwrapping her scarf. The coat came next, revealing a faded blue sweater with a small tear at the collar. The notebook, he noticed, never left her possession. In the kitchen, Emma directed operations with the confidence of a five-star general, instructing Olivia on plate locations in silverware drawers. Marcus observed their guest, noting how she moved with unexpected grace, her eyes taking in details a casual visitor might miss. She noted the professional-grade appliances, the knife block, the layout. Emma's voice cut through his thoughts. Olivia, do you like lasagna? It's so good. Maria makes it with 3 kinds of cheese. Yes, I love Italian food. Olivia's voice had relaxed slightly, her shoulders less tense now that they were in the kitchen. Marcus watched as she helped Emma set the kitchen island, noticing how she properly arranged the silverware without being shown. Her movements were practiced, efficient, not what he'd expect from someone living on the streets. As Emma climbed onto a stool, Marcus poured himself 2 fingers of scotch, raising the bottle questioningly toward Olivia. She shook her head, requesting water instead. He noted that too, no grab for free alcohol, another stereotype challenged. They ate in the kitchen, Emma dominating the conversation with stories about school and friends and Christmas wishes. Olivia engaged warmly with her, asking questions that demonstrated actual interest rather than adult politeness. Marcus contributed occasionally content to observe the strange tableau they created. Halfway through the meal, Emma asked the question Marcus had been avoiding. Why were you by the dumpster? Were you looking for food? Olivia set down her fork, meeting Emma's gaze directly. No, not food. I was rescuing this. She placed the notebook on the counter, keeping one hand protectively on its cover. It's my recipe book. I was walking by and saw someone had thrown it away by mistake. It must have fallen out of my bag earlier. Emma's eyes widened with interest. Can I see? Olivia hesitated, then slowly opened the book. Inside were handwritten recipes, notes scribbled in margins, ingredients crossed out and replaced small sketches and diagrams. My mom wrote some of these. Olivia's voice softened. Others I collected from chefs I've worked with or created myself. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You're a chef. Something flickered across Olivia's face, pride then pain quickly masked. I was. A lifetime ago. Emma, sensing the shift in mood, changed topics with a child's intuition. Do you know how to make Christmas cookies? We were supposed to bake some tonight, but Daddy burned them last year. Marcus winced at the memory. The pre-made dough had seemed straightforward enough until he'd become distracted by a work call. I do know how to make Christmas cookies. Many kinds, actually. Can you show us? Emma's eyes lit with excitement. Please, if your dad doesn't mind, I'd be happy to. He should have said no, should have maintained boundaries. Instead, he heard himself say, the pantry should have everything you need. I'll clean up here. The next hour transformed the kitchen. Flour-dusted countertops, butter softened in dishes, vanilla and cinnamon scented the air. Emma stood on a step stool beside Olivia, following instructions with unusual focus. Marcus observed from the periphery, noting Olivia's confidence as she moved through his kitchen. She instructed Emma with patience but not condescension, explaining techniques rather than simplifying them. This is called the creaming method. We beat the butter and sugar together until they're light and fluffy. It creates tiny air pockets that make the cookies tender. Emma nodded seriously, wielding the wooden spoon with determination. Olivia guided her hands, demonstrating the proper motion. Marcus was struck by the tableau they created. His daughter's dark curls beside Olivia's blonde waves, both bent over the mixing bowl in identical poses of concentration. Something about the scene ached with familiarity. Claire had stood in that exact spot with Emma, making these same motions. While the first batch baked, Marcus excused himself to his study. There, behind a locked door, he made a call to his head of security. I need a background check. Olivia Winter is approximately 29 years old, possibly connected to the restaurant industry. Priority level urgent. When he returned to the kitchen, the transformation was complete. Cooling racks held rows of perfectly shaped cookies, their edges golden, their centers soft. Emma's face smudged with flour and chocolate beamed with pride. Daddy, we made 3 kinds: sugar cookies and chocolate chip and snickerdoodles. Olivia stood at the sink washing bowls and utensils with the efficiency of someone accustomed to cleaning as she worked. In the warm light of the kitchen, with flour dusting her sweater and a hint of color in her cheeks, she looked less like a homeless woman and more like something else, something that made Marcus uncomfortable in ways he couldn't articulate. The snow outside had intensified, wind howling around the house's corners. Emma pressed her nose to the window, watching the blizzard with delight. It's a snow globe. We're inside a giant snow globe. Weather alerts chimed on Marcus's phone. Travel advisories, road closures, warnings to stay indoors. Olivia sensed his thoughts, wiping her hands on a dish towel. I should go before the roads get worse. Thank you for dinner, and she gestured to the cookies, to Emma, to the unexpected evening they'd shared. All of this. Marcus glanced at the storm outside, then at his daughter's face already falling at the thought of Olivia's departure. Something twisted in his chest, responsibility memory. Claire's voice again. Make room at the table. The roads are already dangerous. He kept his tone businesslike, matter of fact. You're welcome to stay in the guest room tonight. No obligations. Emma bounced with excitement. Yes, stay. We can have Christmas breakfast and open presents and make snow angels tomorrow. Olivia hesitated, conflict evident on her face. Pride warring with practicality, independence with necessity. Finally, she nodded once a decision made. Just for tonight, I appreciate it. The guest room was located in the east wing, far enough from the master suite to provide privacy, close enough to Emma's room to hear if his daughter needed anything. Marcus showed Olivia the space: a queen bed with Egyptian cotton sheets, an ensuite bathroom, a sitting area with a view of the gardens. There are spare toothbrushes in the bathroom cabinet, extra blankets in the closet. Feel free to use anything you need. Olivia stood in the center of the room, her worn backpack a stark contrast to the plush surroundings. She nodded, not meeting his eyes. Thank you. This is very kind. It's practicality, not kindness. The storm would make travel dangerous. Marcus kept his tone neutral, giving her the dignity of a logical explanation rather than charity. Rest well. Breakfast is usually around 8. In Emma's room, Christmas excitement battled with exhaustion. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed, their nightly ritual. One of the few consistent connections they maintained. Will Santa still come even though we have a guest? Emma's voice was heavy with sleep, but concern creased her forehead. Of course, Santa doesn't mind guests, especially at Christmas. Emma nodded, satisfied with this theological clarification. Her eyes drifted closed, then opened again with sudden urgency. Daddy, is Olivia an angel? The question caught him off guard. What makes you ask that? This morning I asked if angels get cold, and tonight we found Olivia in the cold, and she made cookies just like Mommy used to make. Maybe she's Mommy's friend from heaven checking on us. Marcus swallowed hard, stroking his daughter's curls. Grief expressed itself in strange ways, and children therapists had told him. Emma's angel fixation was her attempt to maintain connection with Claire. I think Olivia is just a person who needed somewhere warm tonight. But it's nice that we could help her, isn't it? Mama nodded, eyes closing again. Mommy would be happy. She always said we should help people. Yes, she did. Marcus kissed his daughter's forehead. Sleep tight, Starlight. I love you. I love you more. Emma's voice was already fading into sleep. Infinity times infinity. Downstairs, the house was quiet except for the storm's persistent howl. Marcus poured another scotch, carrying it to the living room, where the largest of the Christmas trees glowed in synchronized perfection. The presents beneath it had been wrapped by a service. Everything was perfect, curated, empty of the chaotic joy that had once defined their holidays. Movement at the edge of his vision made him turn. Olivia stood in the hallway, hair damp from the shower, wearing what appeared to be the hotel-style robe from the guest bathroom. She froze when she realized she wasn't alone. I'm sorry, I thought everyone was asleep. I was just looking for some water. Marcus gestured toward the kitchen. Help yourself to anything you need. She nodded, disappearing briefly. When she returned, she carried a glass of water and her ever-present notebook. She paused in the doorway, clearly debating whether to retreat or acknowledge him further. Thank you again. For dinner, the room, all of it, she hesitated. Not everyone would help a stranger on Christmas Eve. Marcus sipped his scotch, studying her over the rim of his glass. My late wife would have done the same. She was the generous one in our marriage. Something flickered across Olivia's face, recognition perhaps, or understanding. I'm sorry for your loss. How long? 3 years. Cancer. Emma was 4. Olivia nodded, her expression suggesting she understood the weight of that timeline. She seems like a wonderful girl. You've done well with her. The compliment, simple and sincere, hit harder than Marcus expected. Parenting validation was rare in his world of business metrics and stock projections. She's the best of Claire. I just try not to damage that. Olivia smiled slightly, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. It transformed her face, revealing what might have been her natural expression before hardships had befallen her. Children are remarkably resilient, more than we give them credit for. The statement held personal weight, suggesting experience beyond platitudes. Before Marcus could formulate a question, Olivia yawned quickly, covering her mouth with embarrassment. I should let you enjoy your evening. Good night, Mr. Thornton, and thank you again. Marcus, please. Mr. Thornton was my father. She nodded, the smile returning briefly. Good night, Marcus. After she'd gone, Marcus remained in the darkened living room. His phone vibrated with an incoming text, the preliminary background check on Olivia Winters. The message was brief but illuminating. Subject identified as former sous chef at Lumiere. Rising star, then involved in plagiarism scandal with head chef. Fired 2023. No criminal record. Full report by morning. Marcus set down his phone, connecting dots. Lumiere was one of Boston's most exclusive restaurants, with month-long waiting lists and astronomical prices. A sous chef position there would represent the pinnacle of culinary achievement for someone Olivia's age. And a fall from such heights would explain much about her current circumstances. He finished his scotch, mind spinning with possibilities. He told himself his interest was purely humanitarian Christmas charity for a woman down on her luck. But something deeper stirred beneath his corporate pragmatism, something that had been dormant for 3 years. Curiosity, connection, the faintest echo of the man he had been when Claire was alive. Morning arrived with blinding whiteness. The storm had blanketed the property in 2 feet of snow, transforming the manicured gardens into an uninterrupted landscape of pristine crystal. Roads were impassable, power outages reported across the region. But the Thornton mansion, with its generator and private plow service, stood insulated from such concerns. Marcus woke to the unfamiliar sound of laughter from the kitchen. He checked the time, 6:45 a.m., well before Emma's usual Christmas morning pounce. Curiosity drew him downstairs, still in pajama pants and Harvard t-shirt, uncharacteristically casual for a man who wore bespoke suits to remote video calls. The kitchen was alive with activity and aroma. Emma stood on her step stool, carefully measuring flour into a bowl. Olivia guided her hands, their heads bent together in concentration. The island was covered with ingredients: eggs, milk berries, maple syrup. Something sizzled on the stove, filling the air with the scent of vanilla and cinnamon. "Good morning," Emma spotted him, first her face lighting up. "We're making Christmas breakfast. Olivia knows how to make the French toast that looks like a souffle." Marcus observed the scene, struck by the domesticity of it. Olivia moved through his kitchen with the confidence of someone in their element, no trace of last night's wariness. In the morning light, with flour on her cheek and Emma's adoration directed at her, she looked like she belonged there. The thought unsettled him. Olivia turned from the stove, spatula in hand. "I hope this is all right." Emma was awake early, excited about Christmas. "I thought we'd surprise you with breakfast." There was a questioning note in her voice, seeking permission after the fact. Marcus nodded, moving to the coffee machine. "It smells amazing." In truth, it smelled like memories, weekend mornings when Claire would create elaborate breakfasts, their kitchen filled with music and laughter, and the organized chaos of family life. The similarity must have registered with Emma too, because she looked at Olivia with that same studying gaze she'd used the night before. "You make breakfast just like Mommy did. She always said special days need special food." Olivia's hands stilled momentarily, something complicated crossing her face. "That's a good philosophy. Food is memory you can taste. It connects us to people and moments, even when they're gone." The simplicity and truth of the statement hung in the air. Marcus busied himself with coffee, uncomfortable with the emotion rising in his chest. This woman was a stranger, yet she'd articulated something essential about Claire's approach to life that he'd never quite captured for Emma. Breakfast was served at the kitchen table, the formal dining room bypassed in favor of comfort. The French toast souffle was spectacular, crisp-edged, custardy center served with fresh berries and real maple syrup. Emma devoured hers while Marcus found himself savoring each bite, realizing how long it had been since he'd eaten something made with genuine care rather than professional obligation. After breakfast, the inevitable excitement of Christmas presents could no longer be contained. Emma bounced in her chair, eyes darting to the living room where the perfectly wrapped packages waited. "Can we open presents now? Please, I've been patient forever." In the living room, Emma's delight was genuine and infectious. She tore through packages containing the latest toys, books, clothes, and electronics. Marcus had a system. His personal assistant created a spreadsheet of age-appropriate gifts, ordered them, had them wrapped and delivered. All he needed to do was show up and record the moment on his phone. Olivia sat in an armchair, somewhat apart from the scene, clearly feeling her outsider status in this intimate family moment. She held her notebook, fingers tracing its worn edges absently as she watched Emma exclaim over each new treasure. When the presents were open and the floor was littered with discarded wrapping paper, Emma disappeared upstairs to retrieve something. She returned clutching a homemade card constructed from red construction paper and excessive glitter. "This is for you, Olivia. I made it this morning while you were in the shower." Olivia accepted the card with visible surprise, opening it carefully. Inside, Emma had drawn three figures holding hands: a tall man in what appeared to be a suit, a small girl with curly hair, and a blonde woman in a chef's hat. Above them, a yellow-haired angel floated, surrounded by stars. "That's us," Emma explained, pointing to each figure. "You and me and Daddy, and that's Mommy watching from heaven." Olivia stared at the drawing, something shifting behind her eyes. "Thank you, Emma. This is beautiful." The moment stretched fragile and meaningful in ways Marcus couldn't quite articulate. It was broken by Emma spotting something on the floor near the tree, a small teddy bear with stuffing poking through a torn seam in its arm. "Oh no, Mr. Snuggles is hurt." She picked up the bear, distress evident on her face. "His arm is ripping." Before Marcus could answer, Olivia set aside her card and held out her hand. "May I see him? I might be able to help." Emma handed over the bear, watching anxiously as Olivia examined the tear. "He just needs a few stitches." "Do you have a sewing kit?" Marcus pointed toward a drawer in the kitchen. Olivia retrieved it, returning with needle and thread. With precise, practiced movements, she began to mend the tear, her stitches small and even. "My mom taught me to sew when I was about your age," Olivia explained as she worked. "She said everyone should know how to mend what's broken." The repair took only minutes, her fingers working with the same dexterity Marcus had observed during cookie making. When she was finished, she tied off the thread and snipped the end, handing the bear back to Emma. "Good as new, maybe even stronger than before." Emma hugged the bear, then impulsively threw her arms around Olivia's neck. Thank you. You fixed him perfect, Mr. Snuggles says you're magic. Olivia returned the hug hesitantly, her expression a complex mixture of pleasure and pain. Over Emma's shoulder, her eyes met Marcus's, something unspoken passing between them, acknowledgement of the dangerous territory they were entering, where a stranger was becoming something more in his daughter's emotional landscape. After the excitement of presents, Emma wanted to play in the snow. Marcus helped her bundle up in coat boots, hat, and mittens. Olivia declined to join them, citing her lack of proper winter clothing. Instead, she offered to clean up the breakfast dishes and wrapping paper. Outside, the world was transformed. Snow blanketed everything, muffling sounds and softening edges. Emma charged into the drifts with the fearlessness of childhood, immediately setting to work on a snowman. Marcus helped rolling increasingly large snowballs across the yard, lifting the middle section into place. As they worked, he caught glimpses of Olivia through the kitchen windows, moving efficiently through the space, restoring order to the Christmas chaos. There was something both comforting and unsettling about her presence in his home, a stranger who somehow fit into the empty spaces Claire had left behind. Emma's voice brought him back to the present. Daddy, is Olivia going to stay with us? The question caught him off guard. He tamped down snow around the snowman's base, buying time. No starlight. She has her own life. She was just caught in the storm. Emma's face fell, and her mittened hands pausing in their decoration efforts. But she doesn't have a home. She told me while we were making breakfast. She stays in different places. That's sad, especially at Christmas. Marcus straightened, mentally reviewing what he knew about Olivia Winters, former chef at one of Boston's most prestigious restaurants. No criminal record, currently homeless, a talent for cooking in a gentle way with children. The roads are still bad today. She'll probably stay another night at least. Emma's face brightened immediately. Maybe she could stay forever. She could cook and you wouldn't burn things anymore. And I wouldn't have to be alone when you work late. And Marcus cut her off gently, recognizing dangerous waters. Emma, we can't just adopt adults like stray puppies. Olivia has her own life, her own plans. Our job is to help her get back on her feet, not keep her like a pet. These questions followed him inside, where they found Olivia in the kitchen, cookbook open on the counter, preparing what appeared to be a holiday dinner, far more elaborate than the lasagna they'd planned to reheat. I hope you don't mind, she said, looking up from a pot she was stirring. I wanted to thank you for your hospitality. Maria left ingredients for a proper Christmas dinner. Marcus took in the scene, multiple pots, simmering vegetables, precisely chopped, a small roast in the oven. The methodical organization of a professional kitchen had been recreated in his home. You don't need to do this. Olivia's hands stilled momentarily, then resumed their work. I know, but cooking is... She paused, searching for words. It's the one thing I can still offer. The one part of myself that remains intact. The statement held volumes of unspoken history. Marcus nodded, understanding the need to contribute, to be useful, to be valued for something other than neediness. What can I do to help? The surprise on her face suggested she'd expected dismissal, not collaboration. She assigned him simple tasks, washing vegetables, setting the table, opening wine to breathe. Emma was put in charge of folding napkins, a responsibility she took with utmost seriousness. The meal itself was extraordinary: roast beef with a red wine reduction, potatoes, dauphinoise glazed winter vegetables, and a chocolate souffle that Emma declared the most amazing thing in the universe. It was the kind of meal that would cost hundreds at a restaurant like Lumiere, prepared in his kitchen by a woman they'd found by a dumpster. After Emma went to bed, clutching her newly repaired bear and extracting promises from both adults that Olivia would still be there in the morning, Marcus returned to the living room to find their guests standing by the window, watching the snow in the darkness. That was an incredible meal. He spoke softly, not wanting to startle her. You didn't have to go to such trouble. Olivia turned, her profile illuminated by the Christmas tree lights. It wasn't trouble, it was, she hesitated. A chance to remember who I used to be. The words hung in the air between them, an invitation to deeper conversation. Marcus moved to the bar cart, pouring 2 glasses of brandy. This time, Olivia accepted the offered drink. Who were you? He asked it directly, corporate negotiations having taught him the value of straightforward questions. Olivia took a sip of brandy, her eyes focused on something distant. I was the youngest sous chef at Lumiere. Before that, I worked my way up through kitchens in New York and Chicago. I had a gift for flavor combinations, or so they said. She smiled slightly, a ghost of pride. The Boston Globe called me a rising star in a review once. That was before everything fell apart. Marcus nodded the background check details, confirmed by her own words. What happened? Olivia's fingers tightened around her glass. Her voice when she spoke was controlled, each word carefully selected. There was a chef, Daniel Mercer, older, established, charismatic. He took an interest in my career, became a mentor of sorts. She paused, taking another sip of brandy. I created a dish for the winter menu, a carrot and thyme soup with roasted chicken. Simple ingredients, but the technique and balance were special. My mother's recipe adapted for fine dining. Marcus recalled the soup she'd made the night before, deceptively simple, extraordinarily balanced in flavor. Daniel asked to taste it, said it had potential. 2 weeks later, he entered it in the regional chef's competition under his name. The only change was a garnish of microgreens. The familiar story of corporate theft, of credit stolen and power abused, stirred something in Marcus. He'd experienced similar betrayals building Heartland Foods partners, who tried to edge him out, investors who'd attempted to steal his concepts. You confronted him. It wasn't a question, but Olivia nodded anyway. I went to the executive chef first, showed him my original notes, the development process. But Daniel had friends and management connections in the industry. He claimed I was the one who'd stolen the concept from him. She laughed humorlessly. By the end of the week, I was fired for ethical violations, blacklisted from every kitchen in Boston. The injustice of it tightened Marcus's jaw. He'd been fortunate in his career, talented enough to overcome obstacles, connected enough to navigate industry politics, ruthless enough when necessary to protect what was his. But he'd seen others destroyed by similar circumstances. Couldn't you fight it, legal action? Olivia shook her head, sadness rather than bitterness in her expression. A line cook with student debt against an established chef with restaurant group backing, I consulted a lawyer. He quoted a retainer that exceeded my savings. She traced the rim of her glass with one finger. I thought my family would help, at least let me move home while I regrouped, but they'd already seen the articles, promising chef exposed as fraud. My father said I'd embarrass them, damage the family name. They stopped answering my calls. The quiet dignity with which she related the story affected Marcus more than dramatic emotion would have. She wasn't seeking pity or even justice, just stating facts of a life derailed by circumstances beyond her control. How did you end up? He hesitated, searching for a delicate phrase. Homeless, Olivia finished for him, the word matter of fact in her mouth. It doesn't happen all at once. That's what people don't understand. It's incremental. I had savings, then I didn't. I had an apartment, then I couldn't make rent. I stayed with friends until I'd exhausted their goodwill. I picked up catering gigs under the table, but word spreads in this industry. She set down her glass, wrapping her arms around herself. By October, I was sleeping in shelters. The recipe book is all I managed to keep. It's stupid, really sentimental value over practical considerations. But it was my mother's and then mine, our history written in food. Marcus studied her, seeing now what he'd sensed from the beginning. This was not a woman defined by homelessness, but someone who'd maintained her essential self despite external circumstances. The precision, the talent, the dignity remained intact even as everything else had been stripped away. It's not stupid. We hold on to what matters. After Claire died, I kept her scarves in my closet for a year. Couldn't wear them, couldn't donate them. They smelled like her. The admission surprised him as much as it seemed to surprise Olivia. He rarely spoke of Claire's death, the particulars of his grief too private to share even with friends. Olivia nodded, understanding in her eyes. Grief and loss leave strange markers. My mother died 2 years ago, cancer like your wife. The recipes are her voice now. The parallels between them shifted something in the atmosphere, a recognition of shared experience across vastly different circumstances. For a moment, they were simply two people who had lost, who had continued, who understood something essential about the other. The moment stretched comfortable in its silence until Olivia finally spoke again. I should let you get some rest. Thank you for listening and for not judging. Marcus shook his head slightly. Nothing to judge. Life happens to all of us. It's what we do afterward that matters. Olivia smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her face, revealing the woman she must have been before hardship had etched caution into her features. That's a good philosophy. Good night, Marcus. After she'd gone, Marcus remained in the living room, turning over the evening's revelations. His phone buzzed with the complete background check details confirming everything Olivia had shared, plus financials showing student loans, depleted savings, and eviction notice from 9 months prior. Nothing in her history suggested deception or danger. Just a talented woman destroyed by circumstances and others' ambitions. He scrolled through his contacts, finding the number for his HR director at Heartland Foods. The message he sent was brief. Need to discuss potential personal chef position. Private residence live-in option starting ASAP. The reply came quickly despite the holiday. We'll prepare contract options tomorrow. Merry Christmas, boss. Marcus set down his phone, unsure why he'd acted so impulsively. Offering Olivia employment was logical. She needed work. He needed household help. Emma had already bonded with her. But something deeper than practicality had motivated him, something he wasn't ready to examine too closely. In the morning, snow still blanketed the property, but the plows had begun clearing main roads. The storm had passed, leaving behind a crystalline world of white. In the kitchen, Marcus found Olivia and Emma making pancakes, their heads bent together over the griddle as they debated the optimal moment to flip. The scene struck him with unexpected force, the naturalness of it, the ease between them, the way his kitchen felt alive again. For 3 years, he'd maintained the shell of family life while the heart of it had withered. In less than 48 hours, this stranger had somehow rekindled something he'd thought was lost forever. Olivia looked up, spatula in hand, smile fading as she registered his expression. Is everything all right? Marcus nodded, pouring himself coffee. Roads are clearing, powers restored across most of the city. The information hung between them, its implication clear. The emergency was ending. Their temporary arrangement would conclude. Emma looked between them, sensing the shift in mood. But it's still a snow day, right? We can still build a fort and go sledding. After breakfast, they bundled up and headed outside. Even Olivia joined them, borrowing a coat and boots from the mudroom's collection of guest outerwear. The snowman from yesterday had gained a companion overnight. Emma insisted they needed to build him a friend so he wouldn't be lonely. As they worked, Marcus found himself watching Olivia with Emma, noting the natural way they interacted. There was no forced enthusiasm, no patronizing simplification. She spoke to his daughter as a person, listened to her ideas, guided without controlling. It was the same approach Claire had taken to parenting, respect for Emma's autonomy, coupled with gentle boundaries. By afternoon, Emma was rosy-cheeked and exhausted, ready for quiet time with her new books and toys. Olivia had begun packing her few belongings, preparing for departure, now that the roads were clear. Marcus found her in the guest room, the borrowed clothes laundered and folded neatly on the bed, her worn backpack by the door. Do you have somewhere to go? He asked the question directly. Business mode engaged. Olivia nodded, not meeting his eyes. There's a women's shelter downtown that usually has space. I'll be fine. Marcus took a deep breath, the prepared speech he'd rehearsed suddenly inadequate. I'd like to offer you a position as our personal chef and household manager. Live-in with private quarters in the East Wing, salary and benefits competitive with top restaurant positions. Olivia stared at him, shock evident on her face. You don't know me. I know enough. Marcus kept his tone professional, logical. You're talented. Emma adores you. The background check confirms everything you have told me. We need help and you need stability. It's a practical arrangement for everyone. Olivia's expression shifted from shock to suspicion, then to something more complex. Is this charity? Because I don't need. It's not charity. Marcus cut her off firmly. It's a business proposition. I need someone to manage the household and provide proper meals. Mariah is retiring next year. I work 60+ hours a week. Emma needs consistency. You need employment in your field. He paused. The Christmas Eve meeting was coincidence. This offer is deliberate. Olivia looked down at her hands, then back up at him, something resolute forming in her expression. I appreciate the offer, but I need to be clear about something first. Marcus nodded, waiting. Olivia took a deep breath, her voice steady when she spoke. I was looking through the kitchen yesterday and found a newspaper in the recycling. There was an article about you, Boston's most eligible CEO. It mentioned your wife's passing, your dedication to your daughter, your business success. She paused. It also mentioned your net worth. I need you to know that I didn't orchestrate our meeting. I'm not trying to position myself in your life. I just want to work to cook, to rebuild what I've lost. The directness of her statement, the integrity it revealed, it confirmed Marcus's instincts about her character. He nodded once, respect evident in his expression. I never thought otherwise. The job is real. The terms are fair. There's a contract being prepared if you want to review it. Her wariness softened slightly, something like hope flickering in her eyes. Before she could respond, a small voice came from the doorway. Are you leaving? Emma stood there clutching her repaired bear concern, etched on her small face. Olivia turned to her gentleness, replacing the businesslike demeanor she'd adopted with Marcus. Your dad has offered me a job. As your chef, I'd be staying here cooking for you both, helping around the house. Emma's face transformed joy, replacing worry in an instant. You're staying forever and ever. Olivia glanced at Marcus, something unspoken passing between them. Acknowledgement of the territory they were entering, the complications that might lie ahead, the boundaries that would need to be established. For now, she said carefully, we're going to try it and see how it works for everyone. Emma launched herself across the room, wrapping her arms around Olivia's waist. It's going to work perfect. You're already part of our family. The statement hung in the air, a child's innocent assessment of a situation far more complex than she could understand. Marcus watched Olivia's expression as she returned Emma's hug, joy mingled with caution, hope tempered by experience. In her face, he recognized his own complicated emotions, the sense that something unexpected had entered their lives, something that might heal or hurt in equal measure. Later that evening, after Emma was asleep, Marcus found Olivia in the kitchen, her notebook open on the counter as she made notes about pantry inventory and meal plans. She looked up as he entered, her expression more settled than he'd seen it before. The contract had been delivered electronically, reviewed and signed. The East Wing suite was being prepared. A new chapter was beginning. Thank you for this opportunity. Her voice was steady, professional. I won't disappoint you. Marcus nodded, maintaining the businesslike tone they'd established. I have no doubt. He hesitated, then added, there's one more thing. From his coat pocket, he withdrew a small package wrapped in simple brown paper. He placed it on the counter beside her notebook. Merry Christmas, Olivia. Surprise flickered across her face as she carefully unwrapped the package. Inside was her recipe book, not the tattered version she'd protected so fiercely, but a restored edition. The cover had been professionally rebound in soft leather. The torn pages repaired the smudged writing enhanced for legibility. A small bronze plate on the cover was engraved with her name. Olivia stared at it, fingers hovering above the surface as if afraid to touch it. How did you? I know a restoration specialist. They work through the night. I hope it's not overstepping. I thought you might want to preserve it properly. Olivia opened the book with reverent air, turning pages, slowly examining the meticulous work that had transformed her treasured but deteriorating keepsake into something that would last for decades. This is, she looked up, eyes bright with unshed tears. No one has done something like this for me in a very long time. The vulnerability in her expression stirred something in Marcus's chest, an echo of the man he'd been before grief had hardened him, before business had consumed him, before he'd forgotten how it felt to connect with someone beyond the superficial. Everyone deserves to preserve what matters to them. He spoke softly, the words carrying weight beyond their surface meaning. For a moment they stood in silence, something unspoken passing between them. Recognition, perhaps, of parallel journeys of loss survived, of the possibility that what was broken might somehow be mended. Outside, snow began to fall again, gentle flakes catching the glow of Christmas lights. Inside, in the warmth of the kitchen, three separate lives, a widower struggling to remember joy, a child seeking connection, a talented woman rebuilding from ruins, began to weave together into something new. Not yet a family, but perhaps the beginning of one. Marcus thought of Claire, of her belief in opening their home to those who needed it, in making room at the table. He wondered what she would think of this unexpected development, this stranger who had stepped into their lives on Christmas Eve and somehow begun to fill the empty spaces grief had left behind. As if reading his thoughts, Olivia traced the embossed letters of her name on the restored book. Food isn't just sustenance, she said softly. It's memory you can taste. It holds people together even after they're gone. The words settled between them like a benediction, a philosophy they somehow both understood. Marcus nodded, something easing in his chest for the first time in 3 years. "Merry Christmas, Olivia." She smiled, the genuine expression transforming her face into something luminous, something that hinted at who she had been before hardship and who she might become again. "Merry Christmas, Marcus." Winter settled over Boston like a whisper, soft and relentless. January brought with it the particular stillness that follows holiday chaos. Decorations packed away, ordinary routines resumed, the world returning to its regular rhythms. But in the Thornton household, nothing felt ordinary anymore. 2 weeks had passed since Christmas, and Olivia had seamlessly integrated herself into their daily lives. The East Wing suite had been transformed from impersonal guest quarters to a space reflecting its new occupant. Cookbooks lined the bookshelves, fresh herbs grew in small pots on the windowsill, and the restored recipe book held a place of honor on the bedside table. The changes were subtle but significant, like Olivia herself. Marcus stood in his home office watching snow drift past the windows as he finished a conference call. The quarterly financials for Heartland Foods exceeded projections, stock prices climbing steadily. Professional success had always been his refuge after Claire's death, measurable, controllable, predictable. But lately, he found his attention drifting from spreadsheets to the sounds drifting up from the kitchen. Emma's laughter, the rhythmic chopping of vegetables, occasionally a tune hummed in Olivia's clear voice. The employment arrangement had proven mutually beneficial. Olivia had transformed their meals, organized the household with quiet efficiency, and most importantly, provided Emma with a consistent presence Marcus's work schedule often prevented him from offering. His daughter thrived under the attention, her school reports improving her nightmares, decreasing her perpetual questions about angels and heaven less frequent. For her part, Olivia seemed to be healing too. The sharp angles of her face had softened as proper nutrition restored what hunger had taken. Her wardrobe had expanded beyond borrowed items to clothes of her own, still simple and practical, but selected with the care of someone reclaiming her identity. She carried herself differently now, the wariness gradually replaced by quiet confidence. The call ended, and Marcus made his way downstairs. In the kitchen, he found Emma seated at the island, tongue between her teeth, as she carefully measured ingredients under Olivia's guidance. Olivia looked up as he entered. "Tonight we're making pasta from scratch. Emma is learning fractions. 3/4 cup plus 1/4 equals 1 whole cup." Emma beamed with pride, flour dusting her nose and cheeks. "Cooking is way better than math worksheets." Marcus leaned against the doorway, struck by how normal this scene had become in such a short time, how quickly the strangeness of Olivia's presence had transformed into something that felt not just comfortable but necessary. Later over dinner, hand-rolled pasta with a sauce that made Marcus question how he'd survived on takeout for 3 years. Emma chattered about school and friends, her social world expanding, now that holiday break had ended. Olivia listened attentively, asking questions that showed she'd been paying attention to previous stories, remembering names and details that Marcus sometimes missed. He found himself watching them both, noting the easy rhythm they'd developed. Occasionally, he caught Olivia glancing at him, gauging his reactions, still mindful of her position, despite Emma's immediate acceptance of her as family. The boundaries between employer and employee remained carefully maintained, at least between the adults. That night, after Emma was tucked in, Marcus descended to the kitchen for his customary nightcap. He found Olivia there reviewing menus for the week ahead, her handwriting precise and economical across the page. She acknowledged him with a nod, closing her notebook as he poured himself scotch. "I've been meaning to ask if you'd like a night off next week. My assistant mentioned a new restaurant downtown that might interest you." He kept his tone neutral, professional. The offer could be interpreted as thoughtful employer or something more depending on her inclination. Olivia considered the question, fingers tracing the edge of her notebook, a habit he had noticed she fell into when thinking. "I appreciate the offer, but I don't think I'm ready to face the restaurant world just yet. Not as a customer, and certainly not as—" She gestured vaguely to herself to the uniform of dark pants and chef's jacket she still wore. Her hesitation revealed a vulnerability beneath the competence she displayed daily. Marcus nodded, understanding what remained unspoken. The culinary community was small, her fall from grace still fresh enough to sting. The conversation shifted to practical matters. Emma's schedule, upcoming business dinners. Marcus would host household supplies needing replenishment. The easy efficiency of their professional relationship provided safe harbor from more complicated currents beneath. Before Olivia retired for the evening, she paused at the doorway. I've been thinking about Emma's math difficulties. She learns better through application than abstraction. If you agree, I'd like to develop some cooking projects specifically designed around her curriculum, measuring for fractions, timing for clock skills, temperature for numbers. The thoughtfulness of the suggestion, the careful attention to his daughter's specific needs affected Marcus more than he expected. Olivia wasn't just cooking meals. She was actively investing in Emma's development, observing and adapting to help her thrive. That sounds perfect. You have my complete trust when it comes to Emma. The words emerged more sincere than he'd intended, revealing a depth of feeling he usually kept carefully guarded. Something flickered across Olivia's face. Surprise, pleasure, and a hint of wariness, as if uncertain how to respond to this unexpected admission. Thank you. That means a great deal. She nodded, once professional mask back in place. Good night, Marcus. As January progressed, the household found its rhythm. Marcus maintained his demanding schedule at Heartland Foods, but found himself arranging more work-from-home days, conference calls conducted from his office, while Emma and Olivia experimented in the kitchen below. He told himself it was practical, less commuting in winter weather, more time with Emma, but privately acknowledged the pull of the increasingly warm atmosphere that now pervaded the house. One evening, Marcus worked late in his home office. Spreadsheets and quarterly projections spread across his desk. A soft knock interrupted his concentration. Olivia stood in the doorway, a mug of something steaming in her hands. I thought you might need this. She placed the mug on his desk, not coffee, but a spiced cider that filled the room with the scent of cinnamon and cloves. Emma's asleep. She wanted me to tell you that Mr. Snuggles says good night. Marcus smiled, accepting the mug with gratitude. He'd missed bedtime again, caught in the endless demands of running a national company. The gesture, both the drink and delivering Emma's message, represented a boundary crossing, but one he welcomed. Thank you for all of this. He gestured vaguely to encompass the house, Emma, the quiet order that now defined their lives. I'm not sure how we managed before. Olivia leaned against the door frame, her posture more relaxed than he'd seen before. The professional distance she maintained during the day often softened in these evening encounters. Children adapt. They're remarkably resilient, but they shouldn't have to be. The quiet observation carried weight beyond its simplicity. Marcus nodded, understanding the gentle rebuke beneath her words. Emma had adapted to her mother's death, to his emotional absence, to the revolving door of nannies and housekeepers. She'd adapted, but at what cost? I'm trying to do better. The admission felt raw, honest, in a way he rarely allowed himself. Olivia's expression softened. We all are. That's all any of us can do. The moment stretched between them, comfortable in its shared vulnerability. Then Olivia straightened, professional boundaries reasserting themselves. There's a winter storm warning for tomorrow. I've adjusted the grocery delivery schedule and stocked extra supplies just in case. Always prepared, always thinking ahead. The traits that made her an excellent chef made her equally valuable as household manager. Marcus nodded his thanks, and she departed, leaving him with the warming cider and thoughts he wasn't quite ready to examine. The predicted storm arrived with particular fury the next day. Schools closed, roads impassable. Heartland Foods operations continued remotely. Marcus sequestered in his office, handling one crisis after another as supply chains faltered under weather conditions. By mid-afternoon, he emerged stiff-necked and irritable to find the living room transformed into a blanket fort of impressive engineering. Emma's giggles emanated from within, along with Olivia's quieter laughter. Daddy, we built a snow castle inside, come see. Marcus crouched to peer into the structure where Emma and Olivia sat surrounded by pillows, a plate of cookies between them, a storybook open on Emma's lap. The simple joy on his daughter's face, a joy he'd been too busy to provide himself, both warmed and stung him. Olivia met his gaze over Emma's head, something apologetic in her expression, as if uncertain whether she'd overstepped. He shook his head slightly, silently, reassuring her. This was exactly what he was paying her for, to bring normalcy and happiness to Emma's life. If boundaries blurred sometimes, if the lines between employee and family became indistinct, wasn't that ultimately to Emma's benefit? He joined them inside the fort, laptop, abandoned corporate crises temporarily set aside. Emma snuggled against him, continuing the story where she'd left off, occasionally prompting Olivia to do different voices for different characters. The domesticity of the moment washed over him, so ordinary, so unremarkable, and yet extraordinary in how completely it had been absent from their lives. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Marcus found Olivia in the kitchen preparing dough that wouldn't be baked until morning. He leaned against the counter, watching her methodical movements, measuring, mixing, kneading with practiced precision. "You're good with her, better than I am most days." Olivia glanced up, flour dusting her forearms, a smudge of it across one cheekbone. "I have the luxury of focusing solely on Emma. You're running a company while being a single parent. Those are impossible competing demands." The generosity of her perspective, the absence of judgment where he judged himself most harshly, loosened something in his chest. He rarely discussed parenting with anyone, not his friends, mostly childless executives, not his mother, whose traditional views grated, certainly not his employees. But with Olivia, the conversation felt natural, necessary even. "She would have been around your age now, Claire, if the cancer hadn't—" The words emerged unbidden, surprising him with their rawness. He rarely spoke of Claire, especially the illness that had claimed her so quickly, leaving him with a 4-year-old daughter and a grief too vast to navigate. Olivia's hands stilled in the dough. "I'm sorry. She must have been remarkable. She was. Stubborn, brilliant, compassionate to a fault. She would have handled all of this better than I have." Olivia resumed kneading, her movements rhythmic, soothing. "Everyone handles grief differently. There's no right way to carry that kind of loss." The simple wisdom of her words, the absence of platitudes, eased something in Marcus's chest. Olivia understood loss, intimately different circumstances, but the same fundamental rupture of what should have been. Emma has her eyes. Same expression when she's thinking hard about something. Exact same laugh. Olivia smiled softly. "She has your determination. And your kindness, though you hide it better than she does." The observation that she had noticed his kindness, despite his carefully maintained corporate persona, affected him more than he expected. Before he could respond, his phone rang, the ringtone assigned to his mother. He grimaced slightly, glancing at the time. Eleanor Thornton never called after 9 unless something was wrong. He answered Olivia discreetly, turning back to her dough to provide privacy. His mother's voice came through, imperious, as always. "Marcus, darling, I've just seen the weather report. That dreadful storm has moved north. I'm coming to Boston tomorrow to check on you and Emma. Don't argue, flights are already booked." Protest died on his lips. Eleanor Thornton was a force of nature, more relentless than any winter storm. And he'd failed to mention Olivia's presence in his recent conversations with her, an omission that now loomed problematic. After ending the call, he turned to Olivia, who pretended not to have overheard. "My mother is coming tomorrow. She's—" He searched for a diplomatic description. "Traditional, particular, possibly challenging." Olivia nodded, understanding the unspoken. "I'll prepare the blue guest room. Does she have dietary preferences I should know about?" The practical response, focused on logistics rather than potential awkwardness, reminded Marcus why he valued her. "No dramatics, no insecurities, just solutions. She'll tell you she's not particular, then critique everything from the thread count to the coffee temperature." He ran a hand through his hair. "I should have mentioned you sooner. She can be somewhat protective." Olivia smiled slightly, dusting flour from her hands. "I can handle difficult people, Marcus. I worked in professional kitchens for years. Your mother can't possibly be more terrifying than Chef Maurice during Saturday dinner service." Her confidence eased his concern, but only partially. Eleanor Thornton had opinions about everything, especially what was proper for her son and granddaughter. An attractive young woman living in their home, regardless of her employment status, would trigger her most traditional instincts. The next day dawned clear and cold, Boston emerging from beneath snow blankets, roads gradually clearing. Marcus worked from home, anticipating his mother's arrival with the particular tension her visits always generated. Olivia moved through the house with quiet efficiency, preparing the guest room, planning an elaborate dinner, coaching Emma on proper grandmother etiquette. Eleanor Thornton arrived with her customary dramatic flair town car, delivering her to the front door driver, struggling with multiple matching suitcases despite her "just stopping by for a day or two" claim. At 72, she remained striking, silver hair, perfectly coiffed, tailored wool coat, belted precisely at her waist, leather gloves and boots coordinating exactly. She swept into the foyer, embracing Emma with genuine warmth, before turning her appraising gaze on Marcus. "Darling, you look tired. Are you sleeping properly? Is that new gray at your temples, mother?" Marcus accepted her air kiss, the familiar mixture of affection and irritation rising. "We weren't expecting you until dinner." Eleanor waved this away, already surveying the entryway for changes since her last visit. "The house looks well kept. Have you finally found a housekeeper who meets your standards?" Before Marcus could respond, Emma piped up. "Olivia takes care of everything now. She lives with us and makes the best food ever and teaches me cooking and helps with homework and fixed Mr. Snuggles when he got ripped." Eleanor's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose toward her hairline, her gaze snapping to Marcus with laser focus. "Olivia lives with you?" The sharp question contained volumes, implications, assumptions, judgment. Marcus opened his mouth to explain, but movement from the hallway interrupted him. Olivia appeared professionally attired in dark slacks, in a simple blouse, her blonde hair pulled back in a neat twist. She approached with the perfect balance of deference and confidence. "Mrs. Thornton, welcome. I'm Olivia Winters, the household manager. Your room is prepared whenever you'd like to freshen up. May I take your coat?" Eleanor assessed Olivia with the penetrating gaze that had intimidated corporate boards and society matrons alike for decades. She handed over her coat with deliberate slowness. Household manager. How comprehensive. Her tone made the title sound questionable at best, suspicious at worst. Marcus stepped forward. "Olivia joined our staff after Christmas. She's a professionally trained chef who's been kind enough to take on additional household responsibilities." The careful phrasing, "staff professionally trained additional responsibilities," aimed to establish the proper employer-employee dynamic for his mother's benefit. But Emma, innocent of adult subtext, tugged at Eleanor's sleeve. "Olivia was homeless when we found her. She was getting her recipe book from the trash, and now she lives here and makes everything better." The unfiltered explanation hung in the air like a live grenade. Eleanor's expression froze, her gaze swinging from Emma to Marcus to Olivia with increasing alarm. "Homeless Marcus, a word in your study. Now." Eleanor swept toward his office without waiting for response, leaving Marcus to exchange a quick glance with Olivia, whose composed expression revealed nothing of her thoughts. In his study, Eleanor paced the Persian rug, outrage evident in every line of her body. "Have you lost your mind? Bringing a homeless woman into your home around Emma? What do you actually know about this person?" Marcus maintained his calm, years of boardroom negotiations serving him well. "I know everything relevant, Mother. She passed an extensive background check. She's a former sous chef at Lumiere who experienced professional sabotage and subsequent hardship. She's excellent with Emma, maintains the household impeccably, and has been nothing but professional since joining our staff." Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "Professional. Is that what we're calling it, Marcus? I wasn't born yesterday. She's young, attractive, and conveniently placed in your household. How long before she's conveniently placed in your bed? Or has that already occurred?" The crude implications stung both for its inaccuracy and for how it diminished Olivia's genuine contributions. His voice cooled. "That's enough. Olivia is an employee who deserves respect. Her presence has been nothing but positive for Emma and for this household. I won't have you insulting her based on prejudice and assumption." Eleanor's expression shifted, concern replacing outrage. "Darling, I'm trying to protect you. You're vulnerable, a widower with a young child, considerable assets, a public profile. These situations attract opportunists. Not everyone who's lost can be found, Marcus." The last sentence landed with particular weight, echoing his own initial doubts about Olivia. But weeks of observation had convinced him of her integrity, her genuine commitment to Emma's well-being, her lack of ulterior motives. "You'll see for yourself at dinner. Just give her a chance, Mother. For me, for Emma." Eleanor sighed, relenting slightly. "I'll observe. That's all I can promise." Dinner that evening unfolded with a particular tension of competing interests beneath polite conversation. Eleanor questioned Olivia with the precision of a prosecutor. Her background, her culinary training, her family, her future plans. Olivia answered each inquiry directly, neither defensive nor intimidated, maintaining her composure even as the interrogation intensified. "And where exactly did you train, Ms. Winters?" "I completed the culinary program at the Institute of Culinary Education in New York, followed by apprenticeships under Chef Michel Laurent in Chicago and Chef James Beard, award winner Thomas Keller in Napa." Impressive credentials. How curious that someone with such training would end up Her gaze flicked meaningfully to Olivia's simple attire, in reduced circumstances. Marcus tensed, ready to intervene, but Olivia simply nodded. Life takes unexpected turns, Mrs. Thornton. I experienced professional setbacks, made poor financial decisions, and found myself without resources. I'm fortunate that your son and granddaughter offered kindness when I needed it most. The direct acknowledgement of her past difficulties, without excuse or self-pity, seemed to catch Eleanor off guard. She turned her attention to the meal herb-crusted rack of lamb-roasted winter vegetables, a red wine reduction that complemented the meat perfectly. This is quite good. Where did you source the lamb? Olivia detailed the local farm, the aging process, the particular herbs selected to complement the meat's natural flavor. Her knowledge was comprehensive, her passion evident even through her professional demeanor. Despite herself, Eleanor seemed impressed, her questions shifting from interrogation to genuine culinary interest. After dinner, Eleanor insisted on helping Emma with bedtime, a grandmother's prerogative she rarely surrendered. Marcus found Olivia in the kitchen, efficiently cleaning while preparing components for breakfast. I apologize for my mother. She can be protective. Olivia shook her head slightly. She loves you and Emma. That's not something to apologize for. The generous perspective, excusing behavior many would find offensive, revealed Olivia's fundamental grace. Marcus leaned against the counter, watching her practice movements. Not everyone would be so understanding. Olivia glanced up, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Professional kitchens are excellent training for difficult personalities. Your mother is actually quite straightforward. She says exactly what she's thinking. I respect that even when what she's thinking isn't particularly flattering to me. The observation was astute. Eleanor's defining characteristic had always been her blunt honesty, regardless of social consequence. Before Marcus could respond, the kitchen door swung open. Eleanor entered, her gaze sweeping from Marcus to Olivia with shrewd assessment. Emma's asking for you, Ms. Winters. Something about a bedtime story you started yesterday. Olivia glanced at Marcus silently, seeking permission to abandon her kitchen duties. He nodded slightly, and she wiped her hands on a towel. We're in the middle of the secret garden. I'll go up right away. As Olivia passed Eleanor in the doorway, the older woman's expression remained unreadable. Once they were alone, Eleanor turned to Marcus, arms folded across her chest. She's not what I expected. Marcus raised an eyebrow. And what exactly did you expect, a manipulative gold digger with fabricated credentials and designs on your bank account? Eleanor shrugged, unapologetic. Instead, she appears to be exactly what you claimed, competent professional good with Emma. Which frankly makes me more concerned, not less. Marcus frowned. That makes no sense. Eleanor sighed, settling onto one of the kitchen stools. Incompetent opportunists are easy to spot and dismiss. Genuinely caring, capable women who bond with your child and organize your household perfectly. Those are the dangerous ones, darling. Those are the ones who slip past defenses. The assessment so close to his own unacknowledged thoughts unsettled Marcus. He'd maintained professional boundaries with Olivia precisely because he recognized the potential complications of their arrangement. The last thing Emma needed was to form an attachment to someone who might ultimately leave, adding another loss to her young life. It's a professional relationship, Mother. Nothing more. Eleanor studied him with the penetrating gaze that had always seen through his childhood fibs. Is it because I saw how you look at her when you think no one's watching? I saw how she anticipates your needs before you express them. Those dynamics rarely remain strictly professional. Marcus pushed away from the counter, uncomfortable with his mother's perceptiveness. You're seeing complications where none exist. Olivia needed employment. We needed household help. It's mutually beneficial and completely appropriate. Eleanor raised an elegantly arched eyebrow. If you say so, darling. Just remember that Emma is already attached. If this arrangement changes in any direction, she'll be the one most affected. The reminder sobered him. Emma's emotional well-being had always been his primary concern, the North Star, guiding his decisions since Claire's death. If his mother had noticed Emma's attachment to Olivia, it was already deeper than he'd acknowledged. Upstairs, Emma's delighted laughter drifted down the hallway, followed by Olivia's voice bringing story characters to life with different accents. The domestic tableau, so ordinary, so precious, underscored Eleanor's warning. Boundaries existed for a reason, and perhaps he'd allowed them to blur more than was wise. The next morning, Marcus descended to the kitchen, to find an unexpected scene: Eleanor and Olivia working side by side preparing breakfast. His mother, normally imperious and demanding service, rather than participating in it, stood at the stove monitoring a pan of perfectly uniform crepes while Olivia prepared fillings. Their conversation, low and intense, halted when he entered. Eleanor turned, offering her cheek for his morning kiss. Olivia is teaching me her crepe technique. Mine always tear. Apparently the secret is resting the batter. The casual use of Olivia's first name, the absence of yesterday's frosty formality, surprised Marcus. Something had shifted overnight. Some understanding reached between the women. He glanced at Olivia, whose expression revealed nothing beyond professional courtesy. Emma bounded into the kitchen, still in pajamas, hair tousled from sleep. She launched herself at Eleanor with uninhibited affection. "Grandma, are you making breakfast with Olivia? Can I help too?" The kitchen transformed into a multi-generational production line. Eleanor managing the crepes, Olivia guiding Emma in preparing fruit fillings, Marcus relegated to coffee duty and table setting. The domesticity of the scene, its effortless warmth, contrasted sharply with the formal, stilted atmosphere that had characterized family gatherings since Claire's death. During breakfast, Eleanor regaled them with society gossip, her sharp observations making even Olivia smile, despite her attempt to maintain professional distance. Emma giggled at her grandmother's impressions of various Boston socialites, while Marcus observed the unlikely rapport developing between his mother and their household manager. After breakfast, Eleanor announced her intention to take Emma shopping. "That child needs proper winter boots, Marcus, not those flimsy things you bought her," leaving Marcus and Olivia alone in the suddenly quiet house. In the kitchen, Olivia cleaned with her usual efficiency, her movements betraying none of the tension Marcus felt. He leaned against the counter, watching her work. "My mother seems to have changed her opinion of you overnight." Olivia glanced up, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "We had a conversation after Emma's bedtime. She had questions. I had answers." The simplicity of the explanation, its deliberate lack of detail, piqued Marcus's curiosity. "What kind of questions?" Olivia stacked the last plate in the dishwasher before turning to face him fully. "She wanted to know if I had designs on you romantically or financially. She was concerned about Emma becoming attached to someone who might not stay. She questioned my long-term intentions regarding this position." The directness of her response, devoid of embarrassment or offense, reminded Marcus why he valued her. No games, no hidden agendas, just straightforward honesty. "And your answer satisfied her?" Olivia shrugged slightly. "I told her the truth, that I'm grateful for this opportunity to rebuild my life, that I care deeply about Emma, but respect the boundaries of my position, that I have no designs on you or your assets, that I understand loss and would never willingly add to Emma's." The comprehensive response addressed every concern Marcus himself had harbored, though he'd never voiced them directly. He nodded slowly, processing her words. "And that was enough for Eleanor Thornton, the woman who interrogated my college girlfriends about their 5-year plans and family pedigrees." A genuine smile spread across Olivia's face, transforming her features. "She also made me promise to teach her my chocolate souffle technique before she leaves. I think that was the real condition of her approval." The unexpected humor, the glimpse of the woman beneath the professional facade, caught Marcus off guard. He found himself smiling in return, tension easing from his shoulders. "That sounds more like my mother. Culinary bribery would absolutely sway her opinion." The moment stretched between them, comfortable in its shared amusement. Then Olivia's phone chimed, a text message that caused her expression to shift, something like worry flashing across her features before she controlled it. "Is everything all right?" She pocketed the phone quickly, professional mask sliding back into place. "Everything's fine. Would you excuse me? I need to check on something." Before he could respond, she was gone, moving through the house with uncharacteristic haste. Marcus remained in the kitchen, puzzled by the abrupt shift. In the weeks she'd been with them, Olivia had never received personal calls or messages, never mentioned friends or connections outside the household. The text and her reaction to it represented the first crack in her carefully maintained professional persona. He returned to his office, forcing himself to focus on work rather than speculate about Olivia's personal matters. Hours passed before the front door opened, heralding Eleanor and Emma's return, laden with shopping bags and bubbling with stories of their expedition. "Look what Grandma bought me." Emma twirled in a new winter coat, boots, and hat, all coordinating perfectly. "And we had hot chocolate with extra whipped cream, And Grandma let me get 2 new books, and we saw a puppy that looked just like the one in my story. Eleanor removed her gloves with practiced precision, her gaze sweeping the foyer. Where's your household manager? I wanted to show her the specialty market we discovered. They have those vanilla beans, she was mentioning. Marcus realized he hadn't seen Olivia since her hasty departure hours earlier, unusual, given her typically constant presence. She's taking care of some personal business, I believe. Eleanor's eyebrows rose slightly at this, but she simply nodded, turning her attention back to Emma's excited chatter. Marcus excused himself, moving through the house with growing concern. He found Olivia in the East Wing sitting room, staring out the window at the snow-covered garden, her posture rigid with tension. The room was dark, save for the fading winter light casting long shadows across the floor. Olivia, is everything all right? She turned at his voice, and he was startled to see evidence of tears on her face, the first display of emotion she'd allowed herself in his presence. She quickly wiped her cheeks, straightening her shoulders. I'm sorry, I should be preparing dinner. I lost track of time. The deflection, so unlike her usual directness, increased his concern. He moved further into the room, maintaining a respectful distance. Something's wrong. Can I help, Olivia? Hesitated, conflict evident in her expression. Then she sighed, shoulders dropping slightly in defeat. I received a message from a former colleague. Daniel Mercer, the chef who stole my recipe and destroyed my career, has been promoted to executive chef at Lumiere. There's a feature article in today's Globe celebrating his innovative approach to traditional cuisine. The signature dish mentioned my carrot and thyme soup. The injustice of it, that the man who had caused Olivia's downfall was being celebrated for the very theft that had destroyed her, ignited something protective in Marcus. Corporate battles had honed his instinct for retribution, for strategic response to unethical behavior. That's unacceptable. We should contact the Globe, set the record straight. I have connections at the paper who would. Olivia shook her head sharply. No, please. That would only make things worse. My word against his again. And now I'm a homeless woman living on charity while he's a celebrated chef with restaurant group backing. Who would believe me? The defeat in her voice, so contrary to the quiet strength she'd displayed since joining their household, affected Marcus deeply. He moved closer, unable to maintain professional distance in the face of her evident pain. You're not homeless anymore. You're not living on charity. You're a valued professional rebuilding your career. Your word carries weight, especially with verification. Olivia looked up at him, vulnerability clear in her expression. Why would you fight this battle? It has nothing to do with you. The question hung between them, forcing Marcus to examine his own motivations. Why did Olivia's pain affect him so personally? Why did the injustice done to her ignite such protective fury? The answer lay somewhere beyond professional concern and territory he wasn't ready to explore fully. Because it's wrong. Because talent and integrity should matter more than connections and power. Because I've seen what you can create, and no one should steal that from you. The simple truth, stripped of professional pretense, shifted something in the atmosphere between them. Olivia held his gaze, searching for something in his expression. Whatever she found seemed to steady her. Thank you, but this is my battle to fight or not fight in my own way, in my own time. Her voice strengthened with each word. Right now I need to focus on rebuilding, on creating something new rather than fixating on what was taken. The quiet dignity of her response, the resilience it revealed, commanded respect. Marcus nodded, acknowledging her right to determine her own path forward. Whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready, I have resources that could help. Legal media, whatever you need. The offer stands no obligation. Olivia's expression softened, gratitude replacing distress. Thank you. That means more than I can express. The moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken emotion. Then Olivia straightened, professional demeanor reasserting itself. I should start dinner. Your mother mentioned plans to depart tomorrow. I'd like to prepare something special for her last evening with us. Just like that, the vulnerability was tucked away, the composed household manager back in place. Marcus recognized the retreat for what it was. Not rejection of his support, but self-protection honed through difficult experience. That evening, dinner unfolded with unexpected warmth. Eleanor, seemingly won over by whatever private conversations she'd had with Olivia, engaged her in discussions of cuisine and travel, sharing stories of memorable meals from her own extensive journeys. Emma basked in the harmonious atmosphere, contributing tales from her shopping expedition with the exuberance only a 7-year-old could sustain. Marcus observed the tableau with mixed emotions, pleasure at the easy interaction, concern about the boundaries increasingly blurred by such domestic harmony. Eleanor's warning echoed in his mind. Emma was already attached. Any disruption to this newly formed household dynamic would affect her most deeply. After Emma was in bed, the adults gathered in the living room, the formality of earlier encounters replaced by comfortable conversation. Eleanor, mellowed by excellent wine and equally excellent food, reminisced about Marcus's childhood, sharing stories that made even Olivia laugh despite her attempt to maintain professional distance. He was the most serious child imaginable, Eleanor declared, gesturing with her wineglass. 5 years old, negotiating allowance increases based on household chore efficiency metrics. Claire was the first person who could make him truly laugh, deep, unguarded laughter. The first time I heard it, I knew she was the one for him. The mention of Claire, casual, natural, without the usual strained silence that followed, surprised Marcus. Eleanor rarely spoke of his late wife, finding grief too uncomfortable to acknowledge directly. Yet here she was incorporating Claire into conversation as if she remained a natural part of their family narrative. Olivia's expression revealed nothing but polite interest, though Marcus suspected the mention of Claire affected her more than she showed. The parallels between them, both talented women who had experienced profound loss, both important to Emma in different ways, created an unspoken connection, neither acknowledged directly. Later that night, after Eleanor had retired to the guest room and Olivia to the east wing, Marcus stood at his bedroom window, watching snow begin to fall again. The house felt different now, warmer, more alive than it had been since Claire's death. The change was evident in small details. Emma's artwork proudly displayed, rather than neatly filed away, fresh flowers on the dining table, the scent of home-cooked meals lingering in the air. Olivia had brought more than culinary skill to their home. She'd brought a presence that somehow honored Claire's memory while creating something new, not replacing what was lost, but helping them move forward without forgetting. The realization both comforted and unsettled him, blurring lines he'd carefully maintained since becoming Emma's sole parent. Eleanor departed the next morning with uncharacteristic warmth, embracing Emma, tightly kissing Marcus's cheek, and most surprisingly taking Olivia's hands in her own. "Take care of them, Olivia. They need more than they admit." The words, spoken quietly but clearly intended for Marcus to overhear, represented Eleanor's acceptance more powerfully than any formal declaration. Olivia nodded, understanding the responsibility being acknowledged, if not officially transferred. "I'll do my best, Mrs. Thornton." Eleanor squeezed her hands once more before turning to Marcus. "She's good for you both. Don't overthink it." With that cryptic parting wisdom, Eleanor swept into her waiting town, while leaving Marcus and Olivia standing side by side in the doorway, watching until the vehicle disappeared down the long driveway. Snow began to fall again, gentle flakes catching in Olivia's hair as they turned to go inside, back to the warmth of the home they were creating together, one careful day at a time. February yielded to March winter's grip, loosening incrementally across Boston. Patches of ground emerged from beneath melting snow, and the first tentative bird song returned to barren trees. Inside the Thornton mansion, a similar thawing had taken place. Routines, established boundaries defined, and occasionally transcended a household finding its rhythm after long discord. 6 weeks had passed since Eleanor's visit, her tacit approval removing one potential complication from the delicate ecosystem they'd created. Olivia had fully settled into her role, her professional confidence extending beyond the kitchen to all aspects of household management. Emma flourished under the stability, her schoolwork improving her nightmares, receding her chatter, increasingly focused on future plans rather than past losses. For Marcus, the transformation remained both welcome and unsettling. The house felt like a home again, warm, lived in, filled with small evidences of care. Fresh flowers appeared on tables. Emma's artwork found proper framing. Meals became occasions for conversation rather than hurried necessities. The change manifested in Marcus himself, colleagues remarking on his improved mood, his increased patience in meetings, his willingness to leave the office at reasonable hours. One evening, Marcus arrived home earlier than usual, having canceled his final meeting on impulse. The sound of music drifted from the kitchen, not the classical playlist that typically accompanied dinner preparation, but something livelier, punctuated by Emma's delighted laughter. He paused in the doorway, taking in the scene. Emma stood on her step stool, whisking something in a bowl while swaying to the music. Olivia moved around the island, adding ingredients, occasionally breaking into an impromptu dance step that sent Emma into fits of giggles. Neither noticed his presence, absorbed in their shared activity and evident enjoyment. Something tightened in Marcus's chest, not pain exactly, but an ache of recognition. This was what had been missing, what Emma deserved, what he'd been unable to provide. Lone's simple joy claimed everyday magic, the alchemy of ordinary moments transformed by affection. Olivia spotted him first, her expression shifting from unguarded happiness to professional composure. The transition happened in an instant, but Marcus caught it, understanding both the boundary being reinstated and the reason for it. "You're home early. Emma and I are making chocolate soufflés." She's becoming quite the pastry expert. Emma beamed, chocolate smeared across one cheek. "I didn't spill anything, and I counted the eggs all by myself." Olivia says soufflés are science and magic together. Marcus entered the kitchen, fully setting his briefcase aside. The warmth of the room enveloped him, along with the rich scent of chocolate and vanilla. Science and magic. That sounds about right. He loosened his tie, an uncharacteristic gesture that signaled his willingness to join their domain rather than retreat to his office. Olivia noted the change, a question in her eyes that she didn't voice. "Is there anything I can do to help?" The offer represented more than assistance with dessert. It was an acknowledgement of the environment they'd created together, his recognition of its value. Olivia hesitated only briefly before nodding toward the refrigerator. "We need cold cream whipped to soft peaks. Think you can handle that?" The gentle challenge, the absence of deference that might have marked their early interactions, spoke to the evolving dynamic between them. Marcus rolled up his sleeves, accepting the mixer Olivia handed him, following her instructions with the same attention he'd give complex financial projections. Emma watched in astonishment as her father, still in his business shirt and trousers, whisked cream with focused determination. "Daddy, you're cooking!" "You never cook." The observation, innocent but pointed, landed with unexpected weight. He'd abdicated so many domestic responsibilities after Claire died, retreating into work and routine, allowing professionals to manage the details of their home life. The simple act of participating in meal preparation felt like stepping through a door he'd kept firmly closed. "I'm learning. Sometimes we need to try new things, right?" Emma nodded sagely, pleased with this development. Olivia's expression remained carefully neutral, but something in her eyes' approval perhaps warmed him more than he cared to examine. The soufflés emerged from the oven, perfectly risen, their chocolate centers still molten, the cold cream providing perfect contrast. They ate in the kitchen rather than the formal dining room, Emma chattering about school and friends, Olivia occasionally prompting her with questions, Marcus content to observe their easy interaction. After Emma was tucked in, Marcus found Olivia in the kitchen reviewing plans for the following week. Their evening conversations had become a quiet ritual, professional boundaries softened by the day's end discussions, ranging from household logistics to Emma's development to occasional personal revelations. "I've been thinking about Emma's spring break. She mentioned wanting to visit the aquarium and science museum. I could arrange transportation and schedules if you'd like to take her." Marcus considered the suggestion, aware of what remained unspoken. Under normal circumstances, such outings would fall to the nanny or housekeeper while he worked. Olivia was offering him the opportunity to reclaim this aspect of fatherhood, to participate more fully in Emma's experiences. "Actually, I was thinking we could all go. I'll clear my schedule for those days." The proposal, casual in delivery but significant in implication, hung between them. Olivia looked up from her notebook, surprise briefly visible, before her features settled into careful neutrality. "That would be wonderful for Emma, but unnecessary for me to join you. This should be family time." The response highlighted the line Olivia consistently maintained, her awareness of her position, her careful avoidance of overstepping. Marcus respected her boundaries, even as something in him wished to challenge them. "Emma would want you there." Her voice, when she said it, carried conviction, though he'd softened the message from his original thought. "I would want you there." Olivia's expression shifted, something complicated passing behind her eyes. She nodded once, accepting the revision to her role without commenting on its implications. "If you're sure, then I'd be happy to join you." The plans crystallized over the following days, a careful itinerary developed to maximize Emma's enjoyment while accommodating Marcus's occasional work calls. As spring break approached, Emma's excitement mounted, her drawings increasingly featuring three figures visiting sea creatures and conducting experiments. The morning of their first outing dawned clear and mild, Boston emerging fully from winter's grip. Emma bounded downstairs in mismatched socks and unbrushed hair, too excited to maintain her usual morning routine. Olivia gently steered her back upstairs for proper preparation, while Marcus fielded one last call from the office, promising to disconnect completely thereafter. The New England Aquarium bustled with spring break crowds, families weaving between exhibits with varying degrees of organization and enthusiasm. Emma clutched her map with determined focus, insisting they follow a specific route to maximize penguin and sea turtle viewing opportunities. Marcus found himself watching Olivia as much as the marine life. In public, away from the household's established patterns, she carried herself differently, still composed but more relaxed, her laughter coming more readily at Emma's enthusiastic observations. Occasionally, her hand would touch his arm to direct his attention to a particular exhibit, the brief contact sending an unexpected current through him. At the central tank, Emma pressed against the glass, transfixed by the swirling patterns of fish. A nearby mother with two small children struggled to manage a stroller diaper bag and her children's competing demands. Without hesitation, Olivia stepped forward, offering assistance, helping the woman navigate the crowded space. The simple kindness, extended without thought of recognition, caught Marcus's attention more than any exotic marine specimen. When Olivia rejoined them, Emma had already moved on to the next exhibit. Marcus lingered a moment longer, studying her profile as she watched the graceful movement of rays through blue water. "You're good with people, not just Emma, everyone. You see what they need before they ask." Olivia glanced at him, surprise flickering across her features at the personal observation. It's just observation. Professional kitchens teach you to anticipate, to read small cues, to respond before situations escalate. The same skills apply everywhere. The modest deflection attributing to training what Marcus suspected was innate empathy reinforced his growing appreciation of her character. Before he could respond, Emma called from the next exhibit, eager to share her discovery of bioluminescent creatures. They ate lunch at the Aquarium Cafe, Emma recounting her favorite sightings with expansive gestures and creative sound effects. Marcus found himself fully present, work concerns temporarily set aside, absorbed in his daughter's enthusiasm. Across the table, Olivia contributed occasional observations, her scientific knowledge enhancing Emma's understanding without diminishing her wonder. A family at a nearby table caught Marcus's attention. Mother, father, two children, approximately Emma's age, all engaged in animated conversation. The ordinary tableau, unremarkable to most observers, carried poignancy he couldn't articulate. That completeness, that balance of two parents and children, remained beyond his capacity to provide for Emma alone. Olivia followed his gaze, understanding dawning in her expression. She said nothing, but when Emma launched into another excited description, she drew the child's attention back to Marcus with a gentle question, creating space for their connection. The subtle facilitation, her awareness of emotional currents beneath the surface, moved him unexpectedly. The day continued with a visit to the Science Museum, where Emma's enthusiasm manifested in constant motion between interactive exhibits. By late afternoon, even her boundless energy showed signs of flagging. Marcus carried her back to the car, her head heavy against his shoulder, feet dangling limply as she fought to keep her eyes open. In the car, she succumbed to exhaustion, sleeping soundly in her booster seat. Marcus drove while Olivia sat beside him, the unusual configuration Emma always rode in the back, with Olivia when all three traveled together, creating an unexpected intimacy. "Thank you for today, for making it special for her." His voice remained quiet, mindful of his sleeping daughter. Olivia glanced back at Emma's peaceful form before responding. "She makes it easy. Her capacity for joy is extraordinary." The simple observation carried deeper meaning, acknowledgement of Emma's resilience, her ability to embrace happiness despite profound loss. Marcus nodded, throat unexpectedly tight. "She's like Claire that way, determined to find the light in everything." Olivia remained silent, allowing space for his rare mention of his late wife. When she finally spoke, her voice held gentle certainty. "She's like you too. That focus, that intensity, when something captures her interest. The way she analyzes problems before diving in. Those are your qualities." The perception that Olivia had observed him closely enough to recognize his traits in Emma affected him more than expected. Most people commented only on Emma's resemblance to Claire, overlooking the characteristics she'd inherited from him. Olivia saw both the complete picture of his daughter's heritage. The remainder of spring break unfolded in similar fashion. Days filled with outings and activities. Evenings spent recounting adventures over meals Olivia prepared. The temporary suspension of routine, the shared experiences outside their usual environment shifted something fundamental in their household dynamic. Boundaries remained but softened. Roles existed but expanded. On the final evening before Emma returned to school, Marcus found Olivia in the kitchen after bedtime reviewing the week's calendar, restoring order to their temporarily disrupted schedule. He poured himself a scotch, offering her the glass of wine she occasionally accepted during these evening conversations. This week was good for Emma. For all of us, I think. Olivia accepted the wine with a nod of thanks. She'll remember these experiences. That's what childhood should be, memories being created, not just days passing. The observation, simple but profound, articulated what Marcus had felt throughout the week, the sense of actively building something valuable for Emma, rather than merely maintaining her existence. He studied Olivia over the rim of his glass, noting the relaxed set of her shoulders, the absence of the professional mask she typically maintained. When I hired you, I was thinking about meals and household management. I didn't anticipate. He gestured vaguely, unable to articulate the transformation she'd brought to their lives. All of this, Olivia met his gaze directly, professional distance momentarily set aside. When I accepted the position, I was thinking about survival, a roof, a salary, a chance to cook again. I didn't anticipate this either. The mutual acknowledgement of how their arrangement had evolved beyond initial expectations hung between them, neither willing to define it more explicitly. Marcus set his glass down, leaning against the counter. I've been meaning to discuss something with you. I'm planning a corporate dinner next month. Key investors, board members, potential partners. Normally I'd hire outside catering, but I wondered if you'd consider handling it. It would be additional compensation, of course, and entirely your choice. The request represented more than a catering opportunity. It was an invitation to showcase her talents professionally, to reclaim the culinary identity that had been taken from her. Olivia's expression shifted, surprise giving way to cautious interest. Here at the house, how many guests? 20 at most. The dining room can accommodate them. I've had these dinners catered before, but never with particularly memorable results. Your food deserves a wider audience than just Emma and me. The compliment, sincere and unbidden, brought color to Olivia's cheeks. She took a sip of wine, considering the proposal. I need equipment, additional serving pieces, possibly help with service, depending on the menu. And I should warn you, some of Boston's culinary elite might be in attendance. People who knew me before. The potential complications hung unspoken between them. Her former colleagues, perhaps even those who had contributed to her downfall, sitting at Marcus's table, eating her food without knowing its creator. He nodded, understanding her hesitation. Whatever you need, consider it done. And as for potential awkwardness, you'd be introduced as my private chef. Nothing more, nothing less. Your reputation should precede you. Olivia smiled slightly at that appreciation for his understanding evident in her expression. I'd like to create a tasting menu, seasonal, progressive, but accessible. Nothing too avant-garde for a business setting, but memorable enough to facilitate conversation. Her mind had already shifted to planning mode, professional expertise asserting itself. Marcus watched the transformation, fascinated by this glimpse of the chef she had been, might be again. For weeks, he'd known her primarily as Emma's caretaker, household manager, the calm presence bringing order to their lives. Now he saw another facet, the creative professional, confident in her domain, eager to practice her craft at its highest level. I trust your judgment completely. Whatever you envision will be perfect. The unqualified endorsement, the absence of parameters or restrictions, clearly surprised her. She held his gaze for a moment longer than usual, something unspoken passing between them. Thank you for the opportunity, and for your trust. The words carried weight beyond their surface, meaning acknowledgement of everything unspoken in their evolving relationship. Marcus nodded once, understanding the multiple layers of her gratitude. The following weeks brought a shift in household energy as Olivia balanced her usual responsibilities with planning for the corporate dinner. Emma eagerly assisted with test recipes, proudly announcing herself junior sous chef as she helped with simple preparations. Marcus found himself increasingly drawn to the kitchen in the evenings, ostensibly to discuss business details, but ultimately lingering to watch Olivia work, fascinated by her methodical precision, her quiet confidence with ingredients and techniques. 3 days before the dinner, Marcus returned home to find Olivia in animated conversation with a delivery person directing the placement of specialized equipment in the kitchen. Her typically composed demeanor had given way to focused intensity, professional chef, rather than household manager, now fully in evidence. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Marcus descended to find the kitchen transformed. Prep stations had been arranged with military precision ingredients organized in labeled containers, specialized tools lined up in sequence of use. Olivia stood at the center island reviewing her planning notebook, completely absorbed in her process. The dinner appears to be in excellent hands. He kept his tone light, not wanting to interrupt her concentration. Olivia glanced up, a spark of something he hadn't seen before, pride perhaps, or professional excitement lighting her eyes. I've finalized the menu, 7 courses, seasonal progression wine pairings if you'd like them. I've arranged for 2 servers to assist with service and cleanup. Everything is on schedule. The confidence in her voice, the absence of the deference that sometimes colored their interactions, revealed another facet of her personality. The professional at the top of her field, accustomed to command certain of her expertise. Marcus found himself responding to this version of Olivia with unexpected appreciation. I'm looking forward to it. And to seeing you in your element. The personal observations slipping past professional boundaries hung briefly between them. Olivia's expression shifted, something complicated, passing behind her eyes, before she nodded once, returning to her preparations. The night of the dinner arrived with precise choreography. Emma had been deposited with Eleanor for an overnight visit. The dining room transformed with linens and floral arrangements, the kitchen humming with controlled energy as Olivia directed her temporary staff through final preparations. Marcus greeted his guests in the formal living room, board members, investors, potential partners, all representing significant financial connections to Heartland Foods. Among them stood Tyler Donovan, CEO of a competing organic food company and Marcus's longtime business rival. His presence was strategic rather than social potential, merger discussions outweighing personal antipathy. As cocktails circulated, Marcus made his way to the kitchen for a final check before dinner. He found Olivia in her element, chef's White's pristine hair, neatly secured, hands moving with practiced precision as she plated the first course. The servers waited attentively for her instructions, responding to her quiet commands with immediate action. For a moment, Marcus simply watched, struck by this fully realized version of Olivia. Not the homeless woman they'd found by a dumpster, not the household manager who cared for Emma, but the professional chef. She had been trained to be confident in her domain, creating art from ingredients. Everything ready. He kept his voice low, not wanting to disrupt her concentration. Olivia glanced up, her focus momentarily shifting from the plates before her. Ready whenever you are. First course can be served as soon as guests are seated. Her voice carried professional assurance without hint of the personal connection they developed over months of shared meals and evening conversations. Tonight, their relationship was strictly professional. He the host, she the chef, boundaries clearly demarcated. Dinner unfolded with perfect precision. Each course emerged from the kitchen as a study in composition and technique. Spring vegetables transformed into elegant compositions. Proteins cooked with scientific exactitude. Dessert balancing sweetness with unexpected complexity. The guests responded with increasing appreciation. Business discussions punctuated by exclamations over particular flavors or presentations. Tyler Donovan, seated across from Marcus, paused midway through the 4th course, a carrot and thyme soup with confit chicken garnish. His expression shifted from polite appreciation to focused intensity as he tasted, then tasted again. This is remarkable. The balance, the technique, it reminds me of a dish I encountered at Lumiere last year, something their executive chef created for a competition. Marcus maintained neutral expression despite the surge of protective anger the comment triggered. He knew, of course, the true origin of the dish, Olivia's signature creation stolen by her mentor, now being attributed to her betrayer. Before he could formulate a diplomatic response, Tyler continued, "Though I must say this version is superior, more nuanced. The original chef must be extraordinary. Did you poach someone from Lumiere for tonight?" The opening, unexpected but perfect, allowed Marcus to respond with careful truth. "My private chef developed tonight's menu specifically for this gathering. She's quite talented." Tyler's eyebrows rose slightly, professional interest evident. Private chef. Since when does Marcus Thornton employ household staff instead of utilizing services? The mild provocation designed to highlight perceived extravagance failed to land as intended. Marcus simply smiled, swirling the wine in his glass before responding. Since discovering that extraordinary talent sometimes exists outside traditional professional settings, my chef was previously employed at a significant Boston establishment before pursuing private work. Her loss was very much my household's gain. The carefully worded explanation, technically accurate while omitting crucial details, satisfied the immediate curiosity without revealing Olivia's identity. Conversation shifted to business matters, the excellence of the food providing natural transitions between potentially contentious negotiations. After the final course had been served and appreciated, several guests requested to thank the chef personally. Marcus hesitated briefly, uncertain whether Olivia would welcome such exposure, particularly with Tyler Donovan among the group. Ultimately, professional courtesy prevailed. He approached the kitchen to extend the invitation. Olivia stood directing cleanup, her chef's whites still pristine despite hours of service. She looked up as Marcus entered, a question in her eyes. Several guests would like to compliment the chef directly, including Tyler Donovan. He recognized your soup, though not its creator. You're under no obligation to appear if you'd prefer not to. The choice to remain anonymous or to step forward and claim her work hung between them. Olivia straightened, something resolute settling in her expression. I'd be happy to meet your guests. My work speaks for itself. Tonight, that's enough. The quiet confidence, the absence of the shame or fear that might once have accompanied such exposure, moved Marcus unexpectedly. He nodded once, leading the way back to the dining room where conversation continued over coffee and digestives. Olivia entered with professional poised chef's whites, identifying her role without need for explanation. Marcus made simple introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, my chef, Olivia Winters. The guests offered enthusiastic compliments, several requesting recipes or techniques, others extending invitations to cater private events. Olivia accepted their praise with gracious professionalism, neither overly humble nor falsely modest, a chef secure in her craft. Tyler Donovan approached last, studying Olivia with narrowed eyes, recognition gradually dawning. Wait, Winters, weren't you at Lumiere under Daniel Mercer? The direct connection, the naming of her betrayer, created momentary tension. Marcus moved subtly closer to Olivia, wordlessly offering support without intervention. Olivia met Tyler's gaze directly, her composure unshaken. I was briefly, before pursuing private culinary work. The deliberate understatement, the absence of recrimination or bitterness, spoke volumes about her character. Tyler's expression shifted from recognition to reassessment, his gaze moving between Olivia and Marcus with new calculation. That soup was exceptional, distinctive. I remember when Mercer presented something similar at the regional competition. Interesting coincidence. The implication hung in the air, not quite accusation, but certainly insinuation. Before Marcus could intervene, Olivia responded with quiet dignity. There are no coincidences in cuisine, Mr. Donovan. Only inspiration, execution, and occasionally attribution. The precise wording, acknowledging the theft without directly accusing, silenced Tyler momentarily. He studied Olivia with new interest, reassessing his assumptions. Well, Thornton has made quite the acquisition, it seems. In more ways than one, perhaps. The suggestive comment, deliberately provocative, triggered Marcus's protective instinct. He stepped forward, prepared to end the conversation, but Olivia's hand on his arm stopped him. Her touch was light but determined, a silent request to handle the situation herself. Mr. Thornton has provided me the opportunity to practice my craft with dignity and creative freedom, something unfortunately rare in our industry. I trust you enjoyed your meal. If you'll excuse me, I have kitchen duties to complete. With that, she nodded politely and returned to the kitchen, leaving Tyler slightly off balance at the calm dismissal. Marcus met his rival's gaze directly, allowing the moment to stretch uncomfortably before breaking the silence. More coffee, Tyler? Or perhaps you'd prefer to discuss the distribution partnership proposal. Now that dinner has concluded so successfully, the deliberate pivot back to business, coupled with the subtle reminder of their potential collaboration, effectively ended the personal line of inquiry. Tyler nodded, accepting the redirection, though his gaze lingered thoughtfully on the kitchen door where Olivia had disappeared. The remainder of the evening proceeded without incident, business discussions productive, if occasionally tense, the excellence of the meal providing natural lubricant for potentially difficult negotiations. By midnight, the last guests had departed, the servers had completed their duties and left, and the house settled into late-night quiet. Marcus found Olivia in the kitchen, changed from chef's whites back to casual clothes, reviewing notes at the island. Her professional mask remained firmly in place, though fatigue showed in the slight droop of her shoulders. That was extraordinary, beyond anything I could have anticipated. He kept his voice warm but professional, respecting the boundaries she had maintained throughout the evening. Olivia looked up, a small smile acknowledging the compliment. Thank you. It was gratifying to cook at that level again. To be seen as a chef rather than... She trailed off, not completing the thought, though. Marcus understood the unspoken alternatives homeless woman charity case household employee. He moved further into the kitchen, pouring 2 glasses of wine and setting one before her. You were never just anything, Olivia. Not to Emma, not to me. The words emerged more earnest than he'd intended, revealing feelings he typically kept carefully guarded. Olivia's expression softened professional distance, briefly giving way to something more personal. Thank you for the opportunity, for believing in my work when I'd almost stopped believing in it myself. The gratitude, simple but profound, hung between them. Marcus raised his glass slightly. To extraordinary talent, into new beginnings. Olivia touched her glass to his, the quiet clink punctuating the moment of connection. They sipped in companionable silence, the successful evening creating a shared satisfaction that transcended employer and employee. Tyler Donovan recognized your soup. He remembered Mercer presenting it at the competition. The observation, carefully neutral, invited Olivia's response without demanding it. She nodded slightly, fingers tracing the base of her wine glass. I expected someone might. Boston's culinary community is small, and that dish was publicized after the competition. Marcus studied her, noting the absence of the distress such recognition might once have caused. What changed? When Tyler mentioned it, you seemed unbothered. Olivia considered the question, her response thoughtful rather than defensive. I realized something while planning this dinner. My work exists independent of attribution. The soup is still my creation, regardless of whose name is attached to it. The flavors, the technique, the balance, those came from my mind, my hands, my history. Daniel can claim it publicly, but he can never truly possess it. The wisdom of the perspective, the hard-won piece it represented, moved Marcus unexpectedly. He had witnessed Olivia's journey from devastation to resilience, from loss to rebuilding. Her capacity to reclaim her work without bitterness or rage spoke to a strength of character that transcended professional skill. That's a profound perspective, and a rare one. Olivia shrugged slightly, though the casual gesture belied the significance of her evolution. Losing everything clarifies what matters. Attribution feeds ego. Creation feeds soul. I'd rather nourish the latter. The simple philosophy, distilled from profound hardship, resonated with Marcus's own journey through grief and recovery. He had learned similar lessons after Claire's death, that titles and achievements meant little compared to genuine connection, that legacy existed in impact rather than recognition. They finished their wine in comfortable silence, the kitchen gradually cooling as ovens completed their self-cleaning cycles, equipment returned to resting states. The night settled around them, a shared moment of quiet satisfaction after months of careful rebuilding. The following morning, Emma returned from Eleanor's full of stories and excitement, barely pausing for breath as she recounted her adventures with her grandmother. Olivia listened attentively while preparing breakfast, asking questions that showed genuine interest rather than polite obligation. Marcus observed the interaction from the doorway, struck by the tableau they created. His daughter animated and secure, Olivia responsive and engaged, the kitchen warm with morning light and comfortable familiarity. The scene embodied everything he'd hoped to provide for Emma after Claire's death, everything he'd failed to create alone. Later that day, as Olivia helped Emma with a school project in the living room, Marcus retreated to his office to review messages accumulated during the dinner party. Among them, a text from Tyler Donovan stood out. Impressive chef you've acquired. Her soup was exceptional, better than Mercer's version at the competition. Interesting story there, I suspect. Let's discuss over lunch next week. I may have a proposition that benefits us both. The cryptic message raised more questions than it answered. Marcus set his phone aside, uncertain whether to mention it to Olivia. Her piece regarding her professional past seemed hard-won. He hesitated to disrupt it with Tyler's ambiguous interest. The decision was temporarily set aside as Emma burst into his office, proudly displaying the project she and Olivia had completed, a diorama of the aquarium's central tank, complete with paper fish suspended on nearly invisible threads. Her enthusiasm washed away business concerns, pulling Marcus fully into the present moment, into the life they were building together. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Marcus found Olivia in the East Wing sitting room, reviewing a cookbook with focused attention. He hesitated in the doorway, struck by the domesticity of the scene. Olivia, in casual clothes, hair loose around her shoulders, completely at ease in the space that had become her domain. She looked up at his approach, setting the book aside with a small smile. Emma finally asleep. She was still so excited about the project. Marcus nodded, settling into the chair opposite hers. The three-dimensional space between them held months of evolving dynamics, employer and employee, friends, perhaps something more remaining, carefully undefined. I received a message from Tyler Donovan about you indirectly. He recognized your soup as superior to Mercer's version. Wants to discuss some proposition over lunch. Olivia's expression shifted surprise, giving way to thoughtful consideration. That's unexpected. Did he elaborate on this proposition? Marcus shook his head. Just mentioned it might benefit us both. Could be business-related. Heartland Foods and his company have discussed potential collaboration. Or it could be about your situation with the Mercer. I wanted you to know before I responded. The transparency, the implicit acknowledgement that any decision affecting her story should include her input, hung between them. Olivia nodded slowly, fingers absently tracing the pattern on the chair's armrest. I appreciate you telling me. Whatever it is, I trust your judgment. My focus is here now, this household, Emma, rebuilding my life. The past with Mercer. It matters less each day. The simple statement, the quiet certainty it conveyed, affected Marcus deeply. Olivia had moved beyond seeking justice or vindication. She had found something more valuable in the present they were creating together. The past may matter less to you, but the truth still matters objectively. What Mercer did was wrong. If there's an opportunity to correct that record, it's worth considering. Olivia studied him, something like affection warming her gaze. The chef who stole my recipe doesn't define me anymore. You and Emma helped me remember that. Whatever Donovan proposes, just remember I've already found what I needed. Anything else would be supplementary. The assertion, its quiet contentment with their current arrangement, both warmed and unsettled Marcus. He had provided Olivia sanctuary, opportunity, respect, but in return she had given his household something equally valuable, warmth, stability, genuine care for Emma that transcended professional obligation. I'll meet with him, hear him out, keep you informed of anything relevant. Olivia nodded, accepting this approach. The matter settled between them, conversation shifted to more immediate concerns. Emma's upcoming school events, household schedules, the gradual transition from winter to spring menus. As March yielded to April, Boston awakened fully from winter's grip. Cherry blossoms emerged along Commonwealth Avenue, early flowers pushed through softening soil, and a gentler quality of light filled the mornings. In the Thornton household, similar renewal manifested in subtle ways: Emma's increasing confidence, Marcus's more frequent presence at home, Olivia's growing comfort in claiming her space within their family structure. The lunch with Tyler Donovan had yielded unexpected results. Not a business proposition as Marcus had anticipated, but rather information about changes at Lumiere. Daniel Mercer had been exposed for multiple instances of claiming subordinates' work as his own. A former line cook had come forward with documented evidence triggering an internal investigation that revealed a pattern of theft and intimidation. Marcus shared this development with Olivia one evening after Emma was asleep, uncertain how she would receive the news. She listened quietly, hands cradling a mug of tea, expression thoughtful rather than triumphant. I'm glad for the other chefs whose work he took. It must be validating for them to be believed. As for me, it's come too late to restore what I lost. But perhaps that's for the best. This path led me here after all. The perspective, finding value in hardship because it had ultimately brought her to their household, moved Marcus unexpectedly. He studied her across the kitchen island, noting how completely she had transformed from the wary, desperate woman they'd found on Christmas Eve to this composed, centered presence in their lives. Do you ever think about returning to restaurant work now that Mercer has been discredited? Doors might open again. The question emerged from genuine curiosity rather than concern about losing her. Olivia considered it seriously, gaze drifting to the window where spring rain fell in gentle patterns. Sometimes I miss certain aspects, the intensity, the camaraderie, the immediate feedback from diners. But kitchens take everything from you: time, energy, physical health. Here I can practice my craft while still having space for other things, for growth, for connection. Her gaze returned to as something significant passing between them, acknowledgement of what remained unspoken in their evolving relationship. Marcus nodded, understanding what she hadn't quite articulated, that their household had become more than employment for her, just as she had become more than an employee to them. I'm glad you're here, Olivia. Whatever brought you to us, I'm grateful for it. The simple truth, stripped of professional pretense, hung between them. Olivia's expression softened, her response equally unguarded. So am I, more than I can properly express. Spring advanced, bringing with it new rhythms and activities. Emma's school year approached its conclusion, her excitement mounting about summer plans and adventures. Marcus found himself increasingly present for ordinary moments, homework sessions at the kitchen island, weekend outings to parks and museums, family dinners, where conversation flowed easily among the three of them. One Saturday in late April, Marcus returned from a morning run to find Emma and Olivia in the garden preparing soil for summer planting. His daughter knelt in the dirt, carefully placing seeds according to Olivia's instructions, her face alight with concentration and joy. The scene, so ordinary, so precious, crystallized something he had been circling for months. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Marcus found Olivia in the kitchen, reviewing recipes for the coming week. The familiar ritual, her at the island with notebooks spread before her. Him preparing evening drinks for their conversation had become one of the anchors of his day, a quiet connection he increasingly valued. I've been thinking about summer plans. Emma keeps talking about the beach house on Cape Cod where we used to spend July. I haven't taken her since Claire died. Too many memories, I suppose, but I'm considering it this year. Olivia looked up from her notes, attentive but neutral, professional boundaries intact despite months of increasing personal connection. That sounds wonderful for Emma. Children need traditions, continuity. Reclaiming positive memories of her mother would be valuable for her. The response focused entirely on Emma's well-being rather than her own role in their plans, exemplified Olivia's consistent prioritization of his daughter's needs. Marcus set a glass of wine before her, gathering his thoughts before continuing. I'd like you to join us, not as household staff, but as, he paused, searching for the right words, as part of our family, whatever that means, however you want to define it. The invitation, deliberately open-ended yet unmistakably personal, hung between them. Olivia's expression shifted, professional composure, giving way to genuine emotion, surprise, hesitation, something like hope carefully guarded. Marcus Wabash, that's a significant shift from our current arrangement. The cautious response, neither acceptance nor rejection, acknowledged the complexity of what he was proposing. He nodded, understanding her hesitation. I know, and I'm not asking for any specific change or commitment, just acknowledgement that what we've built here is more than an employment situation. For Emma, for both of us. Olivia set down her pen, giving him her full attention, the professional pretense temporarily set aside. What exactly are you asking, Marcus? The direct question demanded equally direct response. Marcus took a breath as stepping fully into vulnerability he'd avoided since Claire's death. I'm asking if you'd consider being part of our family, officially, however that looks. I'm asking if what we've built together, this home, this life, is something you want to continue building. I'm asking if you'll come to Cape Cod not as our chef, but as someone who belongs with us. The words, once spoken, couldn't be retracted. They hung in the air between them, changing everything that had come before, opening possibilities neither had directly acknowledged. Olivia's expression shifted through multiple emotions: surprise, uncertainty, hope, caution. This isn't something to decide lightly, for any of us, Emma especially. Her voice remained steady despite the evident emotion behind it. She's attached to me already. Changing our dynamic could affect her deeply, for better or worse. The consideration that Emma's well-being remained her primary concern, even in this deeply personal moment, confirmed everything Marcus valued about her character. He nodded, acknowledging the validity of her caution. You're right, this isn't a decision for tonight, but it is a conversation I wanted to begin, because what we've created here matters. It's healing Emma. It's healing Millionaire, and I hope it's healing you too. Olivia's expression softened, professional distance giving way to genuine emotion. It is, more than I can say. When you found me that night, I'd lost everything that defined me. Now I'm finding new definitions, better ones, because of you and Emma. The admission, vulnerable and honest, bridged the careful distance they'd maintained for months. Marcus reached across the island, his hand covering hers in a gesture both supportive and intimate. Take time, think about what you want. What would make you happy? There's no wrong answer and no deadline. We have time to figure this out together. Olivia turned her hand beneath his, their fingers, interlacing briefly in silent acknowledgement of possibilities not yet defined, but increasingly clear. Outside, spring rain fell softly on new growth, washing away winter's last traces, nurturing seeds planted in darkness. Now reaching toward light. Even from hunger, love can grow.